Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, welcome to day 97 of the Free to Hope presents 12 Steps Applied to COVID-19. My name is Edwina B, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic for 31 years. As of February the 23rd of 2021. Yes, we celebrated 31 years, but one day at a time, following the 12 steps that are spiritual in nature, adopted and created by the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous over 80 years ago, and they are still saving lives from the disease of alcoholism and all of its devastating attitudes, ideas, and behaviors. So I am humbled to be a grateful recovering alcoholic in recovery, just one day at a time. Why? Because our higher power, who I choose to call God, chose me and millions of others to remove the obsession and the compulsion of the devastating disease of alcoholism. We do recover one day at a time. So therefore, we know that God chooses broken, wounded, and shattered people like me and like you to rescue wounded, shattered, and broken people like me and like you. Why? Because we can be of service to Him and be of service to others. But in order for that to happen, He must choose to breathe life into us this day, this moment. He chooses to wake you up and me up this day, this moment, so that we can help apply these 12 spiritual principles to COVID-19 devastating impact, effect, outcome, and fatalities. Our higher power knows the beginning, the middle, and the end of this pandemic. And He also knows this is not the first nor the last pandemic we will experience as a human race and simultaneously around the globe. However, there is a solution, and they are in the 12 spiritual principles if we apply them to this COVID-19 pandemic so that we can stop the perpetuation of it. So for that, we want to give our Creator, who I choose to call God, homage, acknowledgement. Yes, so that He can continue to bless us and use us in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We also want to give homage to those individuals who have transitioned from COVID-19, the loved ones left behind as a result of losing their family members from COVID-19, those who are suffering through it right now with the severity of the symptoms produced by COVID-19, those who have been restored and have recovered from COVID-19. And from what I understand, the recovery process is long, and we don't know when and how it's going to end. We want to pay homage to those who are standing in the gap of those who are suffering from COVID-19, placing their lives and their family members' lives in jeopardy. We also want to pay homage to those who are doing the right thing, being an example, leading by attraction, of doing COVID-19 prevention measures of washing our hands, social distancing, contact tracing, wearing a mask, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. So join me as we include the entire human race, even those who are still defiant, those who are still rebellious, those who are letting their guards down. We have to pray for them too. So giving homage to our Creator and the entire human race as we battle this COVID-19 pandemic, all of its impacts, effects, outcomes, and fatalities. Join me for just 30 seconds of silence. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. I want to once again let you know that with these recovery conversations that have been in existence from April the 1st of 2020 up until now, that even though I have been in recovery for 31 years, I've been free from COVID-19 for 97 days, along with 8 family members from as young as 2 to 78 years of age. So we were blessed that we can breathe, we can smell. Hold on. We can taste. We can swallow. We can touch. We can feel. Yes, only by the grace of God, because we know there are others who won't wake up this morning, can't wake up this morning, are suffering through this pandemic and other issues around the world simultaneously and in a holistic approach. But if we become a part of the solution and no longer a part of the problem, we can make a difference. One person at a time, one family at a time, one culture at a time, one community at a time, one state, one country. And if we do this around the globe together, because we are all in this together, we can, we will, we must stop the perpetuation of COVID-19. So as a person who have been prepared to sit before you as transparently as I can, telling you the truth, sharing with you my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom, my lack of wisdom, my bad decisions, my bad choices. Because I know I contributed to contracting COVID-19 as well as infecting members of my family. I too was once defiant, rebellious, right? Self-centered and selfish, thinking this COVID-19 was out there, that it was something that would come today and go tomorrow. I took it for granted until it hit me and members of my family, and I became a believer. Knowing that I had these 12 spiritual principles at my disposal, but for whatever reason, having that attitude of being invincible, I did not apply them to COVID-19 back in November and December of 2020. But because God spared my life and the lives of my loved ones, it is my obligation, my responsibility to share with you what I should have done, what I could have done, to prevent me from getting COVID-19 and prevent me from infecting my members of my family. So you don't have to go through what I went through if you are willing to be honest about where you are with this COVID-19. You are open-minded to receive the information and use it, and be willing to implement the simple suggestions of the CDC about wearing a mask, washing our hands, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. So let me share with you, in order for you to be set free and give hope to others. The acronym for FREE is From Recovery, Emerge, Empowered. To do what? To give hope to others, help others prosper equally. So you see, as a result of me and family members being COVID-free for 97 days, we are still doing what the CDC recommends, and we listen daily for any updates, and not to let our guards down in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Because in the 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous, they say, and it has been proven, some of us must die in order for some of us to live. How many more people need to die? Over 500,000 people have succumbed to the fatality of COVID-19 when they didn't have to. My heart is heavy because there are going to be more deaths because of that attitude of, I don't care, I'm free, I don't want nobody telling me what to do. And guess what? In recovery, we also learn from people with that attitude, those ideas and that behaviors, because it says some of us are constitutionally incapable of being honest with ourselves. They are such unfortunates, but they are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. But I thank God that I listened, and I hope that you listen too, so that you can save your life, the members of your family, and your fellow human beings. So, free to hope. Let me show you when I got my first vaccine on, I believe it was February the 6th. Here we go.
All right, here we go, my God. Got it. All righty.
All right. And this is when I got my second vaccine shot on March the 4th.
Let's get you a little shot of hope here, my dear.
Yes, a shot of hope. A shot of hope.
You did it.
All right.
You did it.
I did it, and you can do it too. So we know that with the vaccination shot, and again, that's why we have to stay in tune to the news and the statistics and the data, because there is a lot of confusion. There is a lot of apprehension, right? And people just don't know what to do. And so I had to do my own research. I had to ask the questions. I had to obtain the additional information in order to make an objective decision, not based on emotions. And that's what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. We detach from the emotions in order to make an objective decision, because most of us drank, if not all, behind our emotions. But implementing and practicing the 12 spiritual principles, we learn how to detach from the emotions in order to make the best decision. And so I learned that the vaccine reduces the severity of the symptoms should I contract COVID-19 again. It also reduces the possibility of me being hospitalized, and also reduces the possibility of me dying. And so when you look around the world, pay attention. Who is taking the shots? Who is being vaccinated? Use not your physical eyes, but your spiritual eyes. And so if everybody else is taking the vaccine, don't be discouraged. Don't be distracted and not get on the bandwagon because of prior myths, prior experiences that may be factual. But you have to look and listen with your spiritual ears and see with your spiritual eyes what is happening among this spiritual warfare that's going on. So if you want to save yourself, if you want to save your family, if you want to save your culture, if you want to contribute to your community, your city, your state, your country, then do what you need to do and get to stepping with these 12 spiritual principles and applying them to COVID-19. So, what I want to be able to do now is to continue with our recovery conversation now that I got that off my chest, and thank my higher power, who I choose to call God, that in spite of my heart being heavy, for those who will be succumbing to COVID-19, because of whatever reason, is in our human nature to be defiant, to be rebellious, to be egotistical and prideful. But it's going to take you away from here. Then you need to ask what we asked in the 12-step program. Are you willing to save your behind? Or are you willing to save your face? All those masks that we've worn all our lives from as far back as we can remember, huh? All those masks. Take them off, put them down, and put on the mask that's designed to save your life and the lives of others. Which is why these 12 spiritual principles are vital to your existence and to your well-being. Yes. And so I want to go ahead and continue. Let me first acknowledge my sponsors, all right? And they are, okay, here we have them here, right? I'm going to put them on the screen. Please patronize them. But they believe in the cause, and they are willing to have me promote their business in order to help them prosper and help us prosper. MDB Associates, Patchwork Human Services, Levante and Dorsey and Associates, Academy of Peace, Crafty Crab Seafood Restaurant, Free to Hope, LLC. If you want to be a sponsor, because this information is free to the public, when you go back to April the 1st or December the 3rd, you will see how the transition of my equipment, my studio has progressed as a result of having sponsors to upgrade what is necessary to continue to have this information free to the public. So contact me at edwina.bell@yahoo.com or 302-690-6679 or Cash App to $ free to hope to keep the hope alive. Let's go to our other sponsors. Okay, we are going to recognize them. These are some of my most recent sponsors who came on board. They are, Women Do Haul Transportation Services, Mr. C's Barbershop. He's responsible for my crown. Morgan's of Delaware. A lot of my attire that I wear comes from her. Lady T at Morgan's of Delaware. Most of my Afrocentric attire comes from her. And jewelry by Catherine Butler. Divine Light Recovery Center. This is an organization that I have been with for a number of years. They parallel with what Dr. Carl Jung, Dr. Bob, and Bill W. revealed in their conversation back in the 1930s when they had this meeting trying to address how they can help individuals with the disease of alcoholism, knowing that Dr. Bob and Bill W. both suffer from the disease of alcoholism, but it was Dr. Carl Jung that recognized and had enough humility to say, look, Dr. Bob, look, Bill, you and all the rest of you who have this disease of alcoholism, religion is not going to help you. The medical field is limited in helping you. What y'all need is divine providence, divine intervention that will bring about the divine light and have you go through a spiritual experience, bring about a spiritual awakening, and have an increase in your spiritual maturity, and have that transformation to obtain a psychic change. And that's why Divine Light is one of my most important sponsors, because it directs us to the light, all right? I also mentioned to you that back in April the 1st of 2020, there was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Scott T. Allison, right? And when I read his article on March the 31st, he kept he captured my attention when he had this article, and this is what it says. So one of my resources are Dr. Scott T. Allison's article in Psychology Today, right? And here he talks about 7 points from an Al-Anon perspective of how we can benefit from the wisdom of the 12-step programs, and getting us through then, April of 2020, that 30-day request or mandate to stay indoors to stop the perpetuation of COVID-19. Here we are a year later, and it has increased and will continue to increase. So please go back to the March 31st, 2020 edition. Download Dr. Scott Allison's article as he applies the Al-Anon 12-step program to this COVID-19. And the 7 points he emphasizes are letting go of control, patience, keeping the focus on oneself, trust, living in the present, social connections, and service to others, right? And if you go back and extract that information, you will see how he can and you can apply this information that can help save your lives and the lives of others. The other resource that I use is Jason Waller. He breaks down the 12 steps from using his experience, his strength, his hope, and other resources to put together a template, a synopsis, an overview in the most simplistic way that you will understand the narrative and you will understand why he's asking you these questions so that you can embrace the willingness, the honesty, and the open-mindedness to apply these 12 spiritual principles in your life. And as we always do, repetition is important. We're going to apply these 12 spiritual principles to COVID-19. And I want you to see what they say. And I want you to begin to marinate on them. Repetition is so important. If you ever go to a 12-step meeting, there are certain things we read at every meeting, every day. Why? Because we drank every day, we smoked crack every day, we prostituted every day, we lied every day, we hustled every day. And so we need to be reminded just for the day, just for today, what these 12 spiritual principles are, so that we can increase our psychic change to recognize the temptations and the setups and the baits that could draw us back in to exercising those character defects that we so need to be rid of. So the 12 steps apply to COVID-19, changing the area from alcohol, gambling, sex, lust. We are applying them to COVID-19, Anonymous. And they read, we admitted we were powerless over COVID-19, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And sanity only means soundness of mind. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all, it says all, our defects of character, right? And then when we go to recovery principle number 7, which is the one we are on now, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. We fall short with these character defects. I don't want to ever take COVID-19 for granted. And when I find myself doing so, I humbly ask him to remove that thought, to remove that action from me right here, right now. And number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, may direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so will injure them or others, even you. 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it, right? 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others regarding COVID-19 and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And let me interject Donald Lawrence's song. When I had like 21 or 22 years in recovery, applying these principles and practicing them in all my affairs, that's why repetition is so vital, because when I heard the words of that song, it turned my world right side up, and I was elevated in my psychic change. Yes, because the song to the words to the song says, you are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being living and walking this natural experience. Did you hear that? Let me say it again. The song by Donald Lawrence called Spiritual. You are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being living and walking this natural experience. That makes a difference. When I realized that this is only the vessel, this is only the temple, this is only the machine that these spirits operate through, it turned my world right side up, because now the student stays so ever ready so that the teachers can and will appear. So now I've learned one day at a time, even when I stumble, even when I fall short, I am stumbling forward. Because now I understand that these spiritual principles can be applied to all physical conditions that we go through as human beings walking this earthly journey. Isn't that something that we can learn some spiritual principles that we can apply to all physical conditions in this body, walking this earthly journey? And when we apply those spiritual principles, we recognize that there is a power greater than us who wants to use us, who wants to prepare us, who wants to motivate us so that we can help our fellow human beings. We were called to serve. And guess what? During this COVID-19, we need to be of service to others. We need to be of service to others. That's why you're listening right now. That's why you are listening right now, because you can be of service to others just by doing the simple suggestions of wearing the mask, washing your hands, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested and getting vaccinated. You can be of service to others. If you talk to individuals who have lost loved ones to this COVID-19, if you talk to individuals who are suffering through this COVID-19, if you talk to others who have known the pain and the misery, right, of having COVID-19, surviving it, but still had the long-term effects of it, if you talk to any one of them, they will tell you, if I coulda, woulda, shoulda, if I only put the mask on, if I only washed my hands, if I only social distance, if I only did contact tracing and people to me, if only I got tested, if only I got vaccinated. They will tell you, they will plead with you, please don't do what we should have done. Do what they suggest that you do so you don't have to experience the pain, the misery, the regrets, the remorse that we feel. Please, please. That's what we mean. We need to be of service to others. If you care about your life, if you care about your loved ones, if you care about your fellow human being, then learn how to embrace and apply and practice these 12 spiritual principles and apply them to COVID-19. All right, so, can I take a drink of coffee, right? My heart's heavy. I can breathe, I can taste, I can feel. But I want you to listen. I want you to listen. So I'm going to share with you right now a few minutes of my second day of my podcast back on April the 2nd, when I was instructed by the Spirit and I yield to come on and let you see what COVID-19, how we can apply these 12 spiritual principles. So I'm going to show you a portion of that second day, part 3. All right. So listen. So let's take this off. All right. Let's take this off. Okay. And let's bring this on. This is going to pick up from, I showed a portion of part 1 the other day on day 95, I think. I showed a portion of it yesterday, 96, and here's the third portion of it. So I'm picking up where I left off at, all right? So not enjoy, but listen. Listen. Start keeping a journal. And I told y'all about my journal. I wrote I kept a journal for 4 years in my recovery. And tomorrow I'll present it to you. I don't see it right now, but I do have it. But it's a journal that I kept of the thoughts, the fears, the behaviors, the attitudes, the first 4 years in recovery. And that journal has become my reference book. So I want you to start keeping a journal of these presentations that I'm doing and information, okay? And so as I go through the 12 recovery principles, I'm going to be asking you some questions so that you don't have to answer them right now. Thank you, Billy. That you don't have to answer them right now, but that you can think about. Because all of these 12 recovery principles can help you transform positively, constructively, yes, productively, yes, spiritually, so that you can learn, like we have learned in recovery, that no matter what goes on in life, no matter what the situation is, whether it's good or bad, up or down, that we can maintain our peace, we can maintain our joy, we can maintain our serenity in the midst of the storm. Okay? So, the first recovery principle is stated that we have to do this particular principle 100%. 100%. Because without accepting, understanding, internalizing the first recovery principle, there's no need to go on. But it's a start. It's a start. But it's the first recovery principle that identifies that issue, that circumstance, that situation. It helps to identify what it is that has caused your life to become unmanageable, that have caused my life to become unmanageable. And in my case, it was the use of alcohol and drugs that gained power over me and helped to make my life unmanageable. Yes. So what we're going to be asking you today, if you're not a drug addict or alcoholic, but you know what they say? They say we're all addicted to something. We are all addicted to something. So therefore, we all can use a 12 recovery principle program. Okay? So, but it's the first recovery principle that we have to do 100% because it sets the foundation in order for us to utilize and apply and implement the remaining 11 principles. Why? Because if I don't take that first step 100%, then that situation, that circumstance, that substance, that challenge can overpower you again and again and again, thereby making your life continuously unmanageable. Even though you may have periods of manageability, but eventually that situation, circumstance, substance overpowers you again and your life becomes unmanageable. Okay? So it says, number one recovery principle, you are not in this alone. We admit it. We were powerless over. And I have a blank line here, right? So you could put in whatever you feel as though you are powerless over that has contributed to your life being unmanageable, right? So I'm not alone, you're not alone. Admit it. And I had to underline the word admit it. Admit it means to confess to be true. Remember I told you to thy own self be true? There's no gray area. There's no straddling the fence. Either it's true or it's not. It's just that simple. So admit it means confess to be true. Or to be the case typically with reluctance. Many of us don't. They say we like the truth, or they say, you say tell me the truth, but can we deal with the truth? And then if we're not truthful, what is our reluctance to be truthful? And the 12 recovery principles help us to unravel that onion to find out that. But we admit it. We were powerless over this COVID-19. It's happening all around the world. We are powerless over what has happened with the COVID-19 pandemic. We, as a nation, as a world, we are powerless over it. And it is and have made already our lives unmanageable. Once we admit that, it's reality. It's true. Variations here and there, but it's true. It's affecting the whole entire world in one form or another. And it is and will continue for a time to make our life unmanageable. I just used the COVID-19 pandemic as a fill-in for our powerlessness and how it is making our lives unmanageable. That's why if we accept that 100%, right? Because it's true. There's no reluctance. There's more than enough evidence, right? It's true. And we see the ripple effect that it's having and making individuals, families, communities, societies, the world unmanageable. Everybody is scrambling to do this, to do that, to get this fit, all that kind of stuff. But people in recovery, like myself, we admit it. It's true. It is and have and will continue to make life unmanageable for some people. But people in recovery use that serenity prayer. It says, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is where Dr. Scott T. Allison in Psychology Today emphasized that we can use the wisdom of these 12-step programs. And I'm sharing that wisdom with you. So that's why we have to admit that we are powerless over whatever. Whether you have a cancer, you have it, right? Whether you try to commit suicide, you tried it, right? It happened. You were raped. It happened, right? It's true. It happened. And as a result of those things happening, those situations that cost you, it's true. It did happen. And not and what, so what, now what, but it did happen. You acknowledge it. We admitted it. Because if you don't admit it, if you don't bring out what's internally festering in your spirit inside, then you're playing ping pong in your head. You're going cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. Because you don't want to admit the truth. But once you admit the truth, you can begin healing. Yes. Yes. So we admitted we were powerless over that situation, circumstance, or whatever, and that our lives had become unmanageable. Okay? Perfect example with me and my drug addiction and alcoholism and associated behavior. I stopped going to work. I was getting high at work. I neglected my children. I decreased in my hygiene. I started prostituting. I started stealing. Why? To support my habit that had power over me. That substance had power over me. Yes, in the beginning I made a choice. But after a while, it consumed me. It consumed me. But I'm thinking I had control over it. And they say the minute you try to control something, you're already out of control. Okay? And so I had to admit that this alcohol, these drugs, is making my life unmanageable. That's the first thing. That's why it's 100%. Now, we can get to why you chose to pick up that drink or that drug, why you are going through all these feelings and thoughts and actions based on what's going on to you. We're going to get into that. But first we have to admit that this situation is causing my life unmanageability. And so here are a few questions I want to give you. What are you powerless over? I ask again. The he-men, the women who think they superwoman, guess what? I ask you a question. What are you? Not what you think you powerless over. See, I'm not going around the bush. What are you powerless over? You need some examples? Can you control the weather? No. Can you control other people's driving? No. They may get stopped by the cops or whatever, but can you control that? Can you control the thoughts that come into your mind? You say, why did I think about that? Where did that come from? So the question is, what are you powerless over? What are you powerless over? Your children? Your mate? Your boss? What's going on in the world today? What are you powerless over? Are you willing to admit what you are powerless over? And I always use the analogy of going backwards. So let's take the second part of recovery principle number 1. It says that our lives had become unmanageable. What in your life is making your life unmanageable? What in your life, what are you doing that's making your life unmanageable? Once you identify that, then you can say why it's unmanageable, because obviously I'm powerless over it. And thereby it's making my life unmanageable. So if I admit that I'm powerless over, get the help that I need to regain some soundness of mind, not control. Because that's another question. So the question was, what are you powerless over? The second question I want you to ponder, to write about. You see what time it is. Okay. I got 15 more minutes. Question number 2. How and in what ways have your life become unmanageable as a result of your powerlessness? Let me ask you that again. How and in what ways have your life become unmanageable as a result of your powerlessness? First, admit, be a man, be a woman. Tell yourself the truth. What are you powerless over? If my 2 little grandchildren who are upstairs in my bed wake up now, can I control them to go back to sleep? Can I stop them from when they wake up? Grandma, Grandma, that's the first thing you might hear because they're still upstairs. Am I powerless over them saying, Grandma, Grandma? Yes. If I try to force them to go back to sleep, if I try to force them to not say Grandma, I'm driving myself cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. I done lost my serenity. I done became a different person. Now I'm exhibiting anger, frustration, impatience, intolerance. Wow. Yeah. There's a trash truck outside. Can I go out there and tell them, be quiet, be quiet. I'm on live Facebook. That noise. Do I got power over that? No. What did I just do? I admitted that they were out there and I accepted, and I'm letting you know. I just wanted to give you a little bit more information of my early days of presenting to you the 12 steps being applied to COVID-19. And as you can see, I spend more time on the actual step and breaking it down by using Jason Waller's template overview synopsis, but also interjecting my own personal experience, strength, and hope, wisdom, lack of wisdom, right? And that's crucial because when we are posed questions, we have the responsibility of first, don't be so quick to react or respond. Take your time and listen to the question. Listen to the question. Think about it. And that's what I was doing with these steps back in April of 2020 on day 2. And I'm going to show different parts of that breakdown because here, a year later, just about a year later, and having contracted COVID-19 back in November and December, being 97 days free of it, okay? So it's information that I can refer to. It becomes my reference book, but it also substantiates what I've been trying to convey to you. That was conveyed to me, but the difference is I listened as a result of contracting it, infecting my family members. I don't want to do that again, so I listen. Yes. And so you're going to see more of those reruns that could be vital for you this day to listen. All right. So let's continue with our breakdown of recovery principle number 7. So we know that we were able to provide you an overview of the steps, and we were able to get to some of the exact natures of our wrongs. So here with step 7, we basically are sharing with you the information from steps 4 and from 4 through 7. So we can substitute any character defect. So let's put in there, instead of lying, let's put in there defiance. Okay. So we identified defiance as a character defect, right? Then we get to the exact nature of defiance. And the reason why we're so defiant is, again, based in fear. Then we become entirely ready to have God remove the defect of defiant fear. And then when we find ourselves in recovery principle number 7, getting ready to be defiant, acting like we want to be defiant, we ask him right then and there to remove our shortcoming. So you can substitute any character defect using this example of steps 4 through 7 to get in touch with what we are talking about. Okay. So let's go to the questions that we have been reviewing. And we know that we talked about these questions, which is very important. One was, how has your understanding of your higher power grown? 2, how have the previous 6 steps prepared you for step 7? 3, how does being aware of your own humility help with working the 7th step, right? We covered these yesterday, right? Number 4, how do you plan to ask a God of your understanding or your higher power to remove the shortcoming? And 5, am I comfortable with prayer and meditation, even if it means making up my own? And yesterday we ended with number 6, has my sense of perspective or reality been out of proportion lately? Okay, so let's go here and let's go to the next question, which is question number 7. And hopefully we can get through them with the time remaining. So step 7 says, have there been times when I have been able to stop from acting on a character defect and practice a spiritual principle instead? Do you hear that? Have there been times when I have been able to stop from acting on a character defect and practice a spiritual principle instead? Well, for those who are in recovery, we understand what this question is asking us. But if you are new to these recovery spiritual principles, then you may not understand what we are asking you. So I always like giving examples. Say, for instance, regarding this COVID-19, right? So the character defect may be, I hear and I see that from last year they had about 30 people. In a year's time, they're up to over 500,000 people, right? And so what have I been doing from last year to now and not practicing the CDC suggestions, right? So if we are applying after we have learned these 12 spiritual principles, I can do an update of where my attitudes, ideas, and behaviors are regarding COVID-19. Now that I've been aware of what's going on, and now I'm listening, because there is a possibility that I could have been one of those over 500,000 people. So guess what? And what? So what? Now what? What am I going to do? Right? So the fact that I am processing the information and the possibility of me contracting COVID-19 rather than ignore it, rather than keep on doing what I've been doing. No, that's a character defect of still being defiant, still being rebellious, still having that attitude of being invincible. Well, what is going to convince you? More death? Your loved ones? Even you contracting it? So the question asks, right? How have there been times when I have been able to stop from acting on a character defect and practice a spiritual principle? So this is your time right now. So when this day, this moment, because this is a happy new day, regardless of what's going on in the world today, in spite of the physical conditions that we are enduring. There is hope. There is a solution if we become aware of our character defects, get to the exact nature, be entirely ready to have God remove all of them. And then when we fall short on them, we can ask that they be removed. And so maybe this is the day that you will put down that character defect and apply a spiritual principle like washing your hands, social distancing, getting tested, wearing a mask, contact tracing, getting vaccinated, You want to see what COVID-19 looked like on me, back in November and December? Right here it is. Look, this could be you. I'm reminded what COVID-19 looked like on me, And if I need more experience, I can see what COVID-19 looked like on others. There, by the grace of God, there go you. So are you telling me that you would rather save your behind rather than put on the mask that's designed to save your... No. Put on the mask that's designed to save your behind and not your face, right? So I want to end with showing that I got the vaccination, right? This was the one on March the 4th. Here I go.
15
All right.
minutes.
So wait a minute. So I'm from Missouri. I'll lead by example. This is when I got and she said a shot of hope. There's definitely a shot of hope right there. Okay. This is when I got the first vaccine on February the 6th, right? After dispelling all rumors and myths and whatnot. Okay. So I'm letting you know that I want to be an attraction. I want to lead by example because COVID-19 is kicking butt and taking names. Yes. So again, if it's God's will that you and I are here tomorrow for day 98, ask yourself, are you in the prevention, intervention, or restoration mode of COVID-19? Are you being proactive, reactive, inactive, or responsible regarding COVID-19? Do you want to be a part of the solution and no longer a part of the problem? Then if he breathes breath into you tomorrow and me tomorrow, we will be reunited. In the meantime, be safe. Take the simple suggestions of the CDC, listen, and apply the information that you have thus received so far with the 12 spiritual principles to COVID-19. Until we meet again, be safe, and be safe. Let me acknowledge my sponsors again, okay? And we will continue with recovery principle number 7 tomorrow. And we will also hopefully conclude recovery principle number 7. But guess what? I am not rushing. I am taking my time because we need to be mindful of the simple suggestions and to act accordingly. So my sponsors again are MDB Associates with Dr. Mary Douglas Bailey, Patchwork Human Services with Ebony Madry, Levante and Dorsey and Associates, Academy of Peace, my friend Dr. J. Macklin, Crafty Crab Seafood Restaurant, where I had my 31st anniversary, Free to Hope from Recovery, Emerge Empowered, and to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. We also have Women Do Haul Transportation Services that will help others with mental illness, substance abuse, get a job. Mr. C's Barbershop, Morgans of Delaware, Lady T at Morgans of Delaware, Jewelry by Catherine Butler, and of course, Divine Light. So I'm going to end with sharing you the cover of my book that I kept a journal the first 4 years in recovery, and bid you until we meet again. All right? Okay.